Our breaking news, a word that FBI Director James Comey was incredulous over President Trump's tweet Saturday morning claiming that President Obama wiretapped Trump's phone during the campaign. The White House continues to insist the president's tweets speak for themselves and that Congress should investigate the allegation. Let's get some insight from our political and legal experts. And Laura Coates, you're a legal analyst. If the president has evidence that his predecessor, President Obama, actually launched a wiretap against them at Trump Tower in New York City, why is the White House calling on Congress to investigate? Because the president, he has the authority to declassify, release that evidence anytime. He could do it today.
I suspect because the emperor has no clothes on, Wolf, and there is really no evidence. They're trying to do a backward approach and say, listen, here's our conclusion. Now make this true. It was similar tactic they used with the travel ban initially to say, here's what I want. Now make this happen. Now that generally works in terms of bureaucracy, but it doesn't work when you're talking about a criminal investigation, which is what this would be. One of the first things you learn as a lawyer is the testimony of the attorney is not evidence. The testimony of the president is not evidence, and his tweets and whatnot will not be sufficient. Now, there actually may be something here, and Congress may decide on their own to investigate the claim. But you're talking about a great expenditure and a distraction from perhaps other things. And so really what has to happen is either in camera or classified to Congress, tell them a reason. The same way the court said, give us a reason to justify this ban. Give me a reason as Congress to justify an investigation. And so far, there isn't any. You
just heard the Homeland Security Secretary, John Kelly, tell me that this is the President of the United States. He's privy to the most sensitive information out there. He must have his reasons for making this enormous charge against President Obama.
Right, and you heard Kellyanne Conway, one of the president's advisors, essentially say the same thing, say that the president is privy to all sorts of information that other people aren't privy to, so he must know something. So far, they haven't been great at dealing with this cloud of Russia that's hanging over this administration and in some ways hung over the campaign too. You would think that they would go on the offense, that the president can call in anyone to the Oval Office and essentially do an interview with anybody he wants to find out what people knew and when they knew it and who they met with and get dates and subject matter conversations that anyone has had with any one suspect in terms of this administration. But they haven't done that. The only thing they've done really is call out the leakers. They've talked about fake news. They've talked about the media being the enemy of the state. And this latest sort of conspiracy theory, there seems to be a conspiracy theory that the president is floating around President Obama, who has been on vacation and in New York and dining with his wife, tapping his phone way back when during the campaign.
You know, Ryan, speaking of conspiratorial theory, you've heard a lot of the president's critics recall he had the conspiracy theory on the birther movement that President Obama really wasn't born in the United States and eligible to be president during the campaign when he was fighting Ted Cruz. Made this allegation that Ted Cruz's father may have been involved in the assassination of JFK. More recently, 3 to 5 million illegal votes. That's why he didn't win the popular vote. Wants to launch some sort of commission, hasn't launched that commission of inquiry yet. You see a pattern here?
I think so. That's quite a list and quite a graphic you just showed, Wolf. And I mean, maybe we shouldn't be that surprised given the history that you laid out, but I do, maybe I'm naive, but I continually find myself surprised that the president engages in the same kind of rhetoric and conspiracy theorizing that he engaged in when he was a private citizen and he didn't have access to, obviously, the resources and intelligence that he has now. I mean, if you think about the accusation he's making, there are three possibilities, right? If you take him seriously, if you take him literally. One is that there was a FISA court surveillance request and that the FISA court agreed with the FBI or whoever presented it to them that there was an agent of a foreign government, either Trump himself or someone in Trump Tower. That's what FISA is used for. It's used to surveil agents of foreign governments on U.S. soil. That would be one possibility. The second possibility would be that there was a more traditional criminal wiretap. And so the court would also have to have evidence of an underlying or potential crime to authorize that. And of course, the third and most extreme and most unlikely scenario is that President Obama has some kind of special personal surveillance powers, and he was bugging Trump Tower. So I feel like Trump has taken this accusation of, whoa, the government may have had enough evidence to do some surveillance, either through a criminal complaint or a FISA complaint, FISA warrant, and he sort of turned it around into something that was malicious. But at the end of the day, Congress needs to get to someone needs to get to the bottom of this and clear it up.
You know, the FBI director, Mark Preston, James Comey, he's described as incredulous by President Trump's tweets early Saturday morning. He could clarify this himself. He could go public, as he did with Hillary Clinton during the campaign. Why doesn't he?
Well, I think that he's had his time in the spotlight, and he got rocks thrown at him for it, and rightfully so in many ways, because if you are a Hillary Clinton supporter, perhaps you think that James Comey tipped the election towards Donald Trump. But he did send senior officials over to the Department of Justice and tell them to knock down this rumor. And as Pam Brown had reported earlier, to no avail. Wolf, what I do think is worthwhile mentioning throughout this whole controversy as well is the timing. This happened on Saturday morning. This came at a time when Donald Trump was not having the best of news days. His attorney general was under the glare for his meetings with the Russian ambassador. He was having trouble with his senior staff, as we've since reported out. And we've seen Donald Trump do this in the past. He tries to redirect everyone's attention elsewhere with another big shiny object. And I do have to say, if this was true, would we really see the President of the United States tweet about it on a Saturday morning? I just think the timing is really circumspect.
All right, everybody stand by. There's more news we're following.